All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And Grandmaster Joe Sakic has made his first move on the chessboard, and that is a deal with the Anaheim Ducks to bring in defenseman Josh Manson. Good deal. I think we're all in agreement that it's a pretty good deal, fair deal on both sides. So obviously we're going to cover that. And then we have some Instagram questions that we threw out there, or I threw out just, if you have any questions, and people definitely came through with that. So some good questions to get to from the people over at Instagram. Let's get this thing going because a lot to talk about. Trade season is here. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, and thank you for joining and making this your first listen of the day. Today's episode brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. Tell them Locked On sent you. So, yes, sir, we have a trade. And the Colorado Avalanche, maybe this is what gets the trade season going. Yeah, we had trades in February, but that was February. That was so
that was 3 years ago.
Exactly. But now we're hitting the ground running when it comes to the trade deadline because it is right around the corner. So we'll get to all of that and then some. Instagram questions thrown our way that we will also bring up. But first things first, follow the show. Social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show over on our YouTube channel, over on YouTube. Subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And when literally we go live, because we're recording these shows live now over on YouTube. So, all right, Kyle. We got word that Avalanche made a deal. And that's the one thing with trade deadlines is, especially with the Avalanche, that they are a buyer. It's just, what are the pieces? Who makes these deals? And we throw around names all the time, and the Avalanche aren't done. This is not, the one move and they are done. But it is a move to get the ball going. And just to recap, the Avalanche send the 2023 second round pick along with prospect Drew Helleson to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for defenseman Josh Manson. I think it's a very good deal on both sides. We're obviously going to focus on the Avalanche side of things. Maybe we'll talk about Drew Helleson if we have time, but he's no longer an Av, so I don't care about him.
You get him out of here.
Kind of kidding. But I think it's a big move for the Avs. They do need defensive help on the depth pairings. Yeah, we love Cale Makar. Yeah, we love Devon Taves. And we still love Eric Johnson to an extent with Gerard hurt. They needed help. And I've said many times, you can't keep doing the Curtis McDermott 2, 3, 4 minutes a night. Sure, he had almost 10 the other night, but they were down guys, clearly, with Landeskog and Gerard being out. So he was going to have to play a few more minutes. This is what you want in Josh Manson. And you get the physicality of Curtis McDermott, but a guy that can play top line minutes if he needs to. This is perfect.
Yeah, it was when the trade came along, and we were talking before we hit record, if you could have gave me $100 and I would have never told you the first move we made was Josh Manson. I had a spoonful of chili about to put in my mouth, not anticipating anything going on. And then I hear
a spit take with the chili.
It was, I think it was Weeksy that sent that video out saying that we got Josh Manson. And I was like, wow. When you look at the stats, you're like, well, this doesn't thrill me at all. He's not a scorer, but he wears the A for the Ducks. That means something. If you're looking at EJ, he wears the A, and you could put all this value on what EJ brings to the team. Manson does the same for the Ducks, and he's going to do the same for the Avs. I mean, he comes from a very hockey-rich family. He's going to be an excellent contributor for that D pair, and who does he pair up with is going to be the question, because he's a little bit quicker. He's got a great hockey IQ, and what he could contribute on the back end is more like a Devin Taves, just not as prolific in the scoring department.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
Yes.
They don't need scoring help on the defensive end. They need someone to soak up minutes, to help on a penalty kill. And honestly, what does Curtis McDermott do other than just throw his weight around, which is helpful from time to time? But he's not killing penalties out there. Like he's not doing much clearly by the time he's spending on the ice. So I think this pretty much spells the end in my opinion, for Curtis McDermott, unless there's like more injuries to go around, because he has shown he can play on the forward line if need be. But you still have someone like Josh McDaniels. Or not McDaniels. Wow. Sorry, Bronco fans. That was a
that guy
right there. Yeah. McDonald.
Yeah.
He's still down, who I absolutely love. And his work ethic, is second to none. So I just don't feel like there's much room left for McDermott when everybody is back and healthy, which is going to be, in a month. And not only McDermott, what about like Ryan Murray?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, well, why don't we go through that? I mean, your pairings are, you're going to have obviously your top pairing with Makar and Taves. And I mean, what would you say? And assume everybody's healthy. Assume Girard is back. All right. So we'll play the game where Sammy Girard is fully healthy. Do you put these two together?
That's exactly where I put Manson. Because Sammy G's speed, especially if this lower body is fully healed up and he's back to La Tornade speed, like it's a perfect balance. It's almost like a mirror. Sammy G and Manson could be your new Taves Makar on that second pairing. Manson, he could play that Taves role, and Sammy G is the Makar. Like one staying home on the blue line, facilitating, and one getting up there in the play and involved. So I think that's where it's going to end up. And then that third pairing, it's honestly the night. You could cycle in McDermott if you want to go physical. You could put Murray if you need some veteran leadership. You could put Jack Johnson. Like you could really play with that third pairing a lot.
Okay, well, I said assuming everybody is healthy. So you also have to include Bowen Byram in that. And how, if you listen to the show, how Kai and I feel about all that. We kind of want him to take the rest of the season off. It just doesn't feel that way to me. I mean, he's out there practicing. He's still wearing the red sweater. But if I don't know. I just get the vibe that he is going to be back before the playoffs start.
Yeah. And it's
they're not listening to us on this one, Kyle.
I know. I have that feeling. Like I was talking to my brother from another mother, Vargar, and he was sending out like his dream pairings, and Bo Byram was in one of those pairings. And I'm just, I told him, I was like, it's one of those, I don't feel comfortable putting him in that position. Like we are all about just letting him have the year off because concussions are nothing to play around with. But when you see them every time Bo hits the ice, there's a social media post about it, and everybody's so excited, and even packaging him in some fantasy trades. Like, I still don't want to see him involved, but it feels like he's going to be regardless.
So let's just assume he is. What do you do? You put him on the third defensive pairing with Erik Johnson? I would think you would have to.
I think that would be the best spot for him.
Can you imagine? Like, think about that for a second.
Exactly. That's what this move does right here. This moment right here.
Think about that. Cale Makar and Devon Taves top pairing, arguably the best in the league pairing. Second unit is Josh Manson and Sammy Girard. Third pairing is Bowen Byram, Erik Johnson. Shut up.
Yeah.
Just give me the cup, bro.
Yeah.
That's
God. Honestly, when this trade was announced, immediately what I thought was everything that we were complaining about in that Boston game, how we started out in that Buffalo game. Those games when we start out and that defense feels like it's collapsing on itself and everybody's lost and nobody knows what's going on. It feels like Manson is that immediate fix to that situation. Like he's got that hockey IQ where he's not going to allow things to collapse on themselves and like the defense to get lost and everybody's swiveling around making sure they know they got their man. Manson has the skill set to quarterback the defensive pairing and to set up that forward line to where they need to go.
Yeah. We'll get to his stats in a minute, and we'll get to kind of the flip side of that. Like, what are the pairings right now? You know, you're not going to be with Sammy G for a month. You're not going to be with Bowen Byram for at least that amount, I would guess. So what's the pairings look like now? And we'll get into his cap number and his stats and all that stuff. But first, who do we have for you today? We have Bet Online, and I filled out my bracket. Did you? Oh, hang on. There we go. Didn't want that. Did you fill out your bracket yet?
Not yet.
No, I've filled mine out, and I think I'll hold off to say who I have as the winner until a little bit. Do you do one sheet or do you do like dozens?
I do a heart and then I do a soul.
Ooh, I like that. I'm going to adopt that.
Yeah.
I like that very much. But it is that time of year again, as college basketball's big tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info, and it remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news for this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and all of the action. That is betonline.net, where the game starts. All right. So, yeah, we were getting into what the lines or the pairings would look like now. So obviously you still have that top pairing. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to be, I mean, they're going to California.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's on the way. He could, just take an Uber or a Turo.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. And meet up with them and be playing Tuesday night. I don't think, is there any COVID stuff going on? I don't think that's in play anymore. Because
I don't think so.
Yeah, remember?
I think that all stopped at the All-Star break, if I'm not mistaken.
They did, remove and change a lot of things. I didn't really. I mean, I looked at the surface stuff, but I didn't really see anything on trades. I would assume he's good to go. I don't think he needs to. There's no more quarantine period. So
I think the only issue would have probably been going north of the border. But I think,
that's true.
Stateside, I think he's okay.
That's true. So he could be on the ice against the Kings. So where would he fit? I mean, with Girard out, you'd almost have to think he's a second pairing guy. Like, we're talking about him being a second pairing guy already, even when everybody's healthy. So you would have to think when, you're down some of these players, he would be. Who's he lining up with out there?
I say, if we're going with who's on the ice right now, just put Manson where McDermott sits and roll with it.
So, what you'd have Johnson? Well, you're down. Well, you could essentially prop up McDermott into the forward line because they went a forward down.
It wouldn't hurt, and you could really see what you're going to get out of McDermott on the forward line. And like you said, we're not done with the trades. You could see what you're going to get, and also showcase him what he can do on the forward. Ultimately, when this team gets healthy, McDermott is going to be your scratch. So, you could at least see what you have going forward. So,
right. As far as stats for him go, I mean, nothing is going to wow you, but that's not his game. His best season was in 17-18, played all but 2 games, 7 goals, 30 assists, 37 points. He had a plus minus of 34. And only 62 penalty minutes. Yeah. So, for a big bodied guy, what is he, like 215, 220 pounds?
Yeah, I think he's like 218. Yeah, 6'3", 218.
He's a big boy. You know what I mean? Like, he's cousin Eddie. He's big, beastly man. So he's not going to get pushed around, but he it seems like he plays a smart game. He's going to play a physical game, but he plays a smart game. The past couple seasons seems like he's fought like an injury bug. So some people are wondering if he's like on the downside because he turned 30. And when that happens, everybody kind of just a red flag goes up. And if you turn 30 and your production starts to go down, everybody's like, oh, no. reel it in. He's done. No,
Yeah.
like this is, I always say it's like a New York Yankees move. You bring a guy who has had good years that are behind him, bring him into a situation like what the Colorado Avalanche are doing right now. And I have every reason to believe that this guy is going to be invigorated to do what he's done in seasons past. I have full faith in that happening.
Yeah, you got to especially look like he's not playing on Anaheim anymore. Like,
Right.
if you're doing what you're doing in Colorado, you're going to see the fruits of your labor instead of what you're doing keeping the team afloat. Like, it's going to be a welcome change for Manson when he gets here.
Yeah, and I didn't mention that the Avalanche, well, I should say the Ducks retained 50% of his salary, which his cap number, I think, was 4.1.
Yeah, so that's like a
every
2.
little bit helps, obviously. Yeah. So, with the Avs being up against the cap, we got no information on Gabe Landeskog, at least on Monday, of how it went, if they're LTIRing him, any of that stuff. And we might not for a couple of days. But
if they do LTIR the Sammy G and Gabe with Manson, that should leave us about 10 million.
Yeah, if they're retaining half. Well, and then the half is prorated, so it's even less than the 4, because it's where it's at. Like now in
true.
The season. So it's less than the 4. So,
and you're basically like with Helleson leaving, like that's understandable. That's a second round pick. Basically, you haven't really get to see him on the ice, so you're basically getting rid of a second round pick for. I think Manson was a 6th round pick when he was drafted. So. Yeah. And you know what you're getting with this. Instead of gambling in the future, you're gambling on a now.
That's exactly right. And there's some people that just love prospects, you know what I mean? And think every single prospect is going to pan out. Law of averages says they're not.
No.
So, and I'm not saying Drew Helleson isn't, but you know what you're getting with Manson. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, why would you hold on to Drew Helleson, who's still a couple years away, then because you have to go after this thing right now.
Yeah,
enough is enough. You know what I mean? Avalanche fans and even the Avalanche franchise are just, you have your window. You are in the middle of your window, and you can't keep just waiting for prospects to emerge. You have to make these moves like this now. And they did. And it's not the last one. We're probably going to lose another prospect or two when this is all said and done. And I'm okay with it, because you have to go utilize the window that you have. And guess what? If the Avalanche are good at drafting, and I know they've lost a lot of draft picks, they can do this again. They can go get prospects again. They're obviously good at it. So this isn't the end for that. So it's a win now mentality, and you have to sacrifice some of the future and your unproven prospects for deals like this. So
look at your top line. Those are prospects that we gambled on. Cale Makar is a prospect that we gambled on. All of these prospects that you're building for, look at the standings. This is what you use prospects to build for. We're here. You don't want to keep holding on to all these saying we're building. No, look at the standings. We're where we have been trying to get. We have built to this point. Don't hold those prospects so close, because you're where you need to be. You need to build on putting the roof on this beautiful house that we built, because this is where we need to be.
Love it. And we'll get to Cale Makar when we get to our Instagram questions, just about that, about, the uncertainty of prospects, even if they're the number 1 pick in the draft or number 2 or number 32. It's a crapshoot. It always is. All right, we'll get to those right after we hear from Rock Auto. And with the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain and auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brands that their warehouse happens to carry? Well, you have a computer with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family-run business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer, so go explore their easy-to-use website today. To find the solution to your auto parts needs, go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on. in the How Did You Hear About Us section so they know that we sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right. We have some Instagram questions that we want to get to. So if you are watching on YouTube, I'll throw them up on the screen. Kyle and I will discuss them, and we'll get to as many as we can. If we go a little long, oh well. So, yeah, these are coming straight from the Instagram people. So let's throw these up on here. We'll move some screenage around so you can see it big time. There you go. Apart from Drew, we'll start with a trade question since we're on that topic anyway. Apart from Drew and possibly Miller, what player or players would you trade before the trade deadline? Go ahead, Mr. Shaggy.
Honestly, this is a question that if you would ask me maybe before January, like around December, I was really high on the John Gibson or Thatcher Demko. Like I would have loved to shore up that goalie position, but we're good there. And with Manson, that really negates who, like the Ben Sherratt. I really liked the idea of Ben Sherratt, but honestly, it's after we acquired Manson. I think the last thing we need is one more forward, veteran forward that can score.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was all in on Jacob Chikrin.
Yeah.
All in on that. I mean, that is a gorgeous contract that he's got for multiple seasons. But now he got injured and he's going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks. So you wonder about that. Ben Sherratt would have been nice. I wouldn't have been against that one. I'm trying. There was another guy out there that I was looking for. Andrew Kopp. He got hurt.
Yeah,
he got hurt too. So the kind of the two guys I was kind of looking forward to maybe being on the move to the Avs both got injured. I haven't heard what Kopp is, but I know it's a concussion. And I think the Avalanche are very cautious of concussions right now, obviously with Bowen Byram. So maybe he really wasn't on their radar, but it would have been nice to have those two guys because I agree with you. I think they need defense, which they addressed. And now I think Drew, I don't know, man. I just feel like that's a slam dunk. I don't know why. I just feel like it's happening. He wants to play 1,000 games in Philly. And I think the next morning you're going to wake up to a deal between the Flyers and the Avs. I just feel like they're just waiting it out because he wants that.
Honestly, we talked about brackets, heart and soul. Like, yeah, Giroux sounds great. I would do anything for JT Miller on this team.
Yeah,
you could take my pinky toe, and I will offer up a pinky toe for JT Miller.
I've just never have thought that that's a serious move for them. I don't know why. I feel like they dangled him out there to see what the market was like if they could get some sort of king's ransom for him. And it's not there, so they're going to hang on to him. He has another year left, so we might be revisiting this next year.
It's one of those. With JT Miller, what he could do on the scoring side, his veteran presence that he has, honestly, and with next year being kind of rocky when it comes to contracts, knowing you have JT Miller for one more year is a little bit of peace of mind going into that.
All right, next question. Let's get this one up on the big screen. Move things around again. I love how I have to do this every single time, but whatever. Why does Kadri get kicked out of so many faceoffs? That's an easier question asked than answered. There's many reasons why he gets kicked. It's not one reason. And sometimes it might not even be him.
Yeah.
It could be, if his teammates are knocking around with the other player, the opponent, that can cause him to get kicked out. I'm not saying that's what happens, but it literally could be the way his skates are faced.
Yeah.
If his skates are not facing forward, he gets kicked out. If his stick is lifted ever so slightly off the ice, he can get kicked out. There's so many reasons. And that's the funny thing about faceoffs is you're never given a reason why. I mean, the game happens so quick and they can't stop the game and say it's not like addressing a penalty. You know what I mean? It's not, you're not saying why. It's just, he got kicked out. There is a dozen reasons why. I wish I knew if there was one thing that he keeps doing over and over again, because then you can address it. But I don't feel like there is, because he keeps getting kicked out. If there was one thing, he'd stop getting kicked out because you'd work on it.
I feel, being the Kadri stand around here, I feel like what he does, he jumps the faceoffs. He gets in on them early. Right. And when he's caught, I feel like this is something that's like common knowledge amongst the refs. Like, hey, Nas is going to try and jump it. And a lot of referees will test him, and he fails. And if you've watched the game in the past 2 weeks, you know Nas gets mouthy. And when he gets mouthy, he is sent out of the circle, and someone else comes in for that. So I feel like this is something, because we talk about veteran. He is a veteran. He's been playing a while. And I feel like the referees are on to, because he has a great faceoff percentage. And I feel like that has something to do with it. He jumps it a little early. He times out these referees, and they bait him when he jumps. They're like, hey, and he starts yelling, just drop the puck, gets mouthy. They send him out. They don't deal with it. And I feel like that's where it is.
You know what I wish they would do? Because it seems like whenever someone gets kicked out, the guy who replaces him, refs drop the puck immediately.
Exactly.
Have someone else go in and intentionally get kicked out and have him replace that guy. Tell me that wouldn't work.
Yeah, then you'll have coaches in your ear. Like, yeah, I exactly right there with what Beth's saying. Like the fake pumps, like the refs, they do that a lot. Right. They just drop the puck. That's exactly it.
It's like, well, refs like to be, a part of the game, and that's their way of being part of the game.
Not Wes McCauley. You're crazy. Wes McCauley does not want to be in the limelight. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're talking about one ref out of the, at any given time, like 30 refs that are going on around the league.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's see here. Here's one that we're gonna. This might start fights. I don't know. You got Peter Forsberg or Gabe Landeskog. I mean, that's as simple as a question as you can ask, but it makes you stop and think.
Honestly, if you have been through both of their timelines and watched both players, if you're asking me to start a team right now to win a cup, Peter Forsberg is my all-time favorite Avalanche player. Gabe Landeskog's who you build a team around. He's got the longevity. He's got the leadership.
Well, he does have that. You're right. Well, we think he's got the longevity. He's still got a ways to go, but he's on track for it.
Like we talked about this before, like when we had the Mount Rushmore episode. Forsberg is looked back fondly in hindsight, but injuries were such a huge problem for Forsberg.
They were.
If this was a one-game scenario, give me Forsberg all day. If you're wanting me to build a team and win a cup, it's Gabe Landeskog.
Yeah, Peter Forsberg is like the Terrell Davis of the Colorado Avalanche. For me, you said Peter Forsberg is your favorite Avalanche player of all time. He is my favorite player of all time.
Really?
On any? Oh yeah. I absolutely loved watching that dude play. So for me, I say this is a no-brainer, but that's not to slight Landeskog at all. I would take Forsberg, but when all is said and done, when Landeskog's at the end of his career as an Av, he's in the conversation of, is he one of the best Avalanche of all time? And is he one of the best captains of all time in Avalanche history? And he's in that conversation. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but he's in that conversation when it's all said and done. So it's a good, the other thing about this is you can't go wrong with either one of these guys.
No, but there's no wrong answer.
For me, it's Forsberg, just because he was being a kid and watching someone like work like that hard was just it instills a lot in a youth hockey fan when you're watching that. So
and Gabe Landeskog is going to make a great assistant general manager one day.
You think he's going to go up into the suits
afterward? Out of everyone on the team right now, Gabe is he is going to be in that office with Joe Sakic.
Could be. And the last one, this is always fun to go back and check on old drafts. Would the Avs have drafted Cale Makar if they had won the draft lottery in 2017? I always love doing this, going back and kind of like redrafting, so to speak. But this is a good one. The Avs, coming off of the dumpster fire of a season, had the best odds to get the number 1 pick. They couldn't do worse than 4th, and they did 4th.
Yeah.
And as the consolation prize, they nabbed Cale Makar. The rest is history. He's the greatest player on the planet. I was waiting for laughter, but no.
Oh no,
he's up there. I mean,
he's there's no denying it.
Yeah,
especially if you look at that class.
Well, so go back. I mean, if you were to redraft, he's number 1, hands down. But put yourself in that position in 2017. Would they still have gone with him? I don't hear as much about the 2017 draft on what the Avs wanted to do outside of Cale than you hear when they drafted Nathan MacKinnon 1st overall.
Yeah.
That was Seth Jones all the way.
Yeah.
The Avalanche were set on Seth Jones, and if it wasn't for Patrick Roy, would have gone with Seth Jones. So you heard that story. I don't know the story of Cale Makar and if they were heading in his direction no matter what. I genuinely don't know. But obviously they lucked out. Nolan Patrick was the diamond in the rough for that draft. He was the consensus number 1, and then he didn't even go number 1.
Yeah.
So, and look where he is now. Look where Nolan Patrick was traded in Vegas.
I remember this 2017 draft very vividly because I remember being obsessed with this draft for some reason and just really wanting to know what the Avalanche were going to do, especially after that bad season. I remember being at work listening to Sportsnet and like hockey writers and hockey news. Like I was ingesting everything. And it was something about the 11th hour right before that draft. This Cale Makar guy just started surging. And like, because it was almost like a foregone conclusion. Like Nolan Patrick's going to be the answer. He's going to change a team and win a cup. And whoever gets him they're going to be rocketed to like a contender. And then it was like the 11th hour, like things started changing really quick. And I think I've heard a couple times like the Avalanche, even if they would have got 1, they were so high up on Cale Makar that they would have taken Cale Makar. And something about that scouting or something that came out really just started inflating Cale Makar. And I honestly feel like even if you didn't know how these players would turn out, I think the Avs would have taken Cale Makar if they had the 1, 2, or the 3.
It's very, very possible. And you even heard with the 2019 draft that the Avs were very high on Bowen Byram.
Mm-hmm.
If I think Jack Hughes was the consensus number 1. If the Avs had gotten number 1, they would have taken Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
But if they were anywhere else, if they were at number 2, and a lot of people had Hughes and Capo Caco 1 and 2 all over the place, I've heard things where outside of number 1, the Avs were taking Bowen Byram.
I heard the same. What. Yep.
Yeah. So, but for some reason, I have not heard what the Avs would have done outside of Cale Makar. I mean, you had a pretty decent draft. It wasn't like the best draft, but I mean, you had Shane Bowers selected late in the round, which you still have him. I mean, Ottawa took him obviously, but I don't know. It's a really good question. Maybe we can do some efforting and see if we can kind of dig something up. But I don't really feel like you're going to get a true answer. Like the MacKinnon story is out there, that is known. The Byram thing, I think that's a little bit conjecture. I think it's it's what we assume, it's what we think we know. And at this stage in the game, if you ask anybody in the front office of the Avalanche, it's absolutely we were taking McKellen.
Yeah, it's our advanced scouting, of course.
No doubt about it. So, I don't think you would get the right answer anyway, but I don't care. We got him, and the rest is history. So,
yeah,
what a day though, man. It's been a busy few days for the Avs on Saturday with all the injuries and signing Pablo Francouz, and now today with the trade for Josh Manson. And like we said in the beginning, Avs are not done. So, less than a week before the deadline is said and done, this kind of shows the Avs are kind of moving and wanting to get these deals done ASAP. But if they are in on Giroux, that might have to wait a few more days.
Yeah.
We'll see. But that will be it for today. Avs take the ice against the LA Kings. We will be talking about that tomorrow and anything else that happens to pop up, because it seems to be a lot of news going around following the Colorado Avalanche. But until then, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you